Do we have any public communications that have come in?
Not that has come in. Nope.
No, usually don't.
Frank, you're good, right? Yes.
All right, approval of minutes. How come April 24th? We didn't forget to improve that or?
Yeah, I
Most
think
of us
that's what
didn't
it
get
was.
them.
It was
I
It
was
was-
wondering that same thing.
yeah,
It's
it-
like,
I think it was, or there was something that Deb said we have to make sure it's on the agenda to make sure it officially gets
Okay.
approved. So
okay,
All right,
So,
Both
make
of
a
them?
motion.
yep.
motion to approve the minutes of April 24th and June 12th.
We have second
Second.
discussion? Our reader? No.
She didn't get them.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. I know we don't have any new applications.
we don't know, no new applications. So I'm gonna promote Megan right now.
Car Wash Center on Long Hill Road.
Frank, should I promote all of them?
I believe so, because that is the soil sign.
Yep. So I'll promote,
Not sure. if she-
no, not Shannon's, it's ours.
Oh,
She's
okay.
ours. So Scott
Got it.
Yes,
and Megan.
there should be
Alright.
two Megans and a Scott.
All right,
Hmm.
we'll get you all promoted here.
Two Megans in the same workplace. That's crazy.
We got a wave.
No, different companies.
Oh,
All right, you should be good to go.
All right, thank you. For the record, my name's Megan Hope. I'm an attorney with Altrin, Pearson and Glastonbury. I'm here tonight with Scott Nolan. He's our professional engineer with SLR. I'm also here with the other Megan Raymond. She's our professional wetlands soil scientist, also with SLR. We're representing the Car Wash Center Groton. They are the contract purchaser of 771 Long Hill Road. And my client, Frank Carpino, is in the audience. I think that's you, Frank. I can only see your shoes. Yeah, hello. So if you have any questions or if the internet fails, Frank will complete the presentation. So I think we'll start tonight. Scott, can you start just maybe sharing the site plan and I'll do a brief intro?
Yep, for sure. Let me know if you can see it. I'll actually
Yeah.
show the rendering to start.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. So the site, 771 Long Hill Road, it's a little over 1 acre in size, located on the south side on Long Hill Road, also known as Route 1. It currently has a 1-story building, the smoke shop building. It's a little over 7,800 square feet, located in the central portion of the site. I think this aerial does a pretty good job of showing how much impervious is on the site right now. It's about 90% impervious, 0.93 acres. And what we're proposing to do with our proposals, redevelop the site for a single tunnel conveyorized car wash. We are increasing the green space on the site, which is obviously a huge improvement from what's there. It helps with a lot of different elements, but especially the stormwater management system, which Scott will discuss further. As far as uses in the area, we have commercial uses to the north, the east, or the north, south, and the east. And then to the west, we do have the railroad tracks. You're seeing that over on the left side of your screen. Megan did go out to the site and delineate the wetlands. Those are located at the rear of the site, closer towards the railroad tracks there, but those were delineated. We don't have any direct wetland impacts, but we do have disturbance, obviously, in the upland review area. That's that dashed yellow line that sort of cuts through the rear third of the property. I do know that we had initially submitted the plans. There was a site walk that I know Megan attended with the commission. We did receive comments from staff as well, which we have incorporated into this latest plan set that we submitted. Scott will go through those. I think there were 6 items that Deb had forwarded to us that she wanted incorporated in the plans. We have done that in this latest plan set. So I think with that, I'll pass it over to Scott.
Yeah, thank you very much, Megan, for the introduction. I'll kind of skip over to the plans and kind of give my spiel. I know we kind of already covered it, but I'll dive in a little bit more into the numbers as far as the green space difference. So we are decreasing the amount of impervious area by about 17%. Or 8,000 square feet in total from the existing to the proposed conditions. Our stormwater system is sized for the 25-year storms. All the pipes capacities can adequately, convey that stormwater. Just due to the site qualifying as a redevelopment site, we are, required to maintain and provide for 50% of the water quality volume, which we are doing so using the water quality basins or the rain gardens, which are located on the south side of the car wash. This rain garden 102 utilizes a dome grate high level overflow structure, while the rain garden 101 uses a riprap spillway in the event of an overflow situation. So we are maintaining existing drainage patterns as currently exist on site. So there'll be no additional stormwater running to the existing DOT system in Route 1 in Long Hill Road, and we're also not sending any additional impervious area to the wetland in the back. Due to the decrease in impervious area, we had a decrease in curve number and peak runoff rates. So that's kind of how we achieved that and graded the site in a way where we're not diverting any additional area to one system or another, the DOT system or the wetlands in the back. So we're maintaining, the existing drainage patterns as noted there. And then kind of just to cover kind of in a quick screen grab, we are maintaining the disturbance in the back. So we're not encroaching any closer to the wetlands. We kind of held that existing tree line back here. And as Megan had already noted, no direct wetland impacts, just impacts within the 100-foot upland review area, which it already has improvements within that 100-foot upland. So the idea was to kind of keep it the same, keep it the same or better, and we're achieving a better result there. So pretty sure that covers most of the items that I had written down with the stormwater. I'll kind of just quickly go over some of the advancements since the last time you guys have seen this set. A couple of the comments, we added a few things in the construction sequence. Specifically, you kind of see note number 14, that CT licensed professional engineer will inspect and certify the storm water management system, and that it's constructed in accordance with our design plans, as well as another bullet was the licensed landscape architect, essentially doing the same thing, representative from SLR, inspecting and certifying that the rain gardens and all plantings on site are in accordance with the landscaping plan. So that was one of the notes that had come out of the comments there. Another note, just in chronological order, this one was more towards the beginning, but basically, thorough inspection of the limits of disturbance and the installation of the erosion controls shall be completed by OPDS staff. So that was another one. That we added to kind of address the concern or comment that kind of came out of the first meeting. And I know Megan Hope touched on it briefly, but from what I heard, and I guess I'll tee up Megan Raymond here, that the site walk went well, and those comments that kind of came out of that site walk have all been addressed on the site plans, and I can definitely send these along. This was kind of prepared for the planning and zoning, but we had made those updates prior to kind of sending that out, so can pass this along, and also answer any questions if anyone has anything.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I would like to know how deep the rain gardens are.
yeah. So, we're looking here, they're about 4 feet deep. These are 1 foot contours on the site, just because we're kind of dealing with like a micro grading situation. So the existing 18 contour comes here. There's actually an existing retaining wall in the back here. So I'll go to the existing conditions plan real quick, just to kind of show that that 18 actually follows that retaining wall and kind of comes back here. So we're not really into a too much into a cut condition there. And we did analyze the elevations of the wetland there to make sure that we're not dealing with any sort of groundwater intrusion in the basins. Our section detail for the basin, let me give me 1 sec. So we do have the typical rain garden section here, where we have the 12 inches of free draining material, which is kind of our standard bioretention basin mix. So that would be a free draining material, and then a 4 inches of topsoil on top, which does consist of sand, compost, and topsoil to facilitate the plant growth that we have proposed in those areas.
Another question. When you have a 25-year storm, will those gardens fill up? Or is there a room left for a 50-year storm?
Yeah, those should have some factor of safety to them. So they're designed to hold the 50% water quality volume at a 25-year storm, but there is a factor of safety built in. And I could look at the drainage report and get back to you on the specifics of how much freeboard elevation is left. Before it were to overtop. But there is a factor of safety, and there's kind of room to make these a little bit bigger, but these are the dimensions to hold the required water quality volume.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Is the 25-year storm?
Scott, do you want to go over the S&E plan?
Yeah, for sure.
It is.
So yeah, just a quick recap of the ENS plan. We have a construction entrance pad here. We're basically we do have a proposed trap. This could be moved to the contractor's liking if he would rather locate it at one of the rain gardens. In that scenario, we would kind of want it to be under excavated by 12 to 18 inches. That way, any accumulation of fines would be excavated out when these are graded to full depth of what the rain gardens are going to be. But just for logistics, we kind of put it at the rear of the site. Our hay bale reinforced silt fence. It's silt socks we see as well sometimes in the back here. And we have our typical diversion berms and check dams to guide the stormwater runoff to the temporary trap. And then you can kind of see that the temporary sediment trap is sized for the full the full amount of disturbance, and that at the dimension shown here, at the depth provided, we're accommodating that volume required. And then obviously we have our inlet protection at at the structures as well, to make sure we're not introducing any sort of fines into the system in advance of the site being stabilized.
If the trap is underneath the pavement, is there a clean out plan?
So this is just a proposed location. I mean, it wouldn't yeah, I mean, they would have to excavate the pavement out, demo the pavement in the back here, because we were planning full depth restoration of the pavement. I don't believe there's any plan to actually maintain any of the pavement in the back. We would want that to be full depth and restored to make sure it's kind of done correctly. So we would be disturbing the area back here, which is accounted for in the disturbance.
I guess I was asking the sediment trap, the temporary sediment trap.
Yep.
What's the long-term maintenance of that?
So as the site is advanced, as more of the site is established, they won't need as much of as large of a trap. So they're gonna, I mean, the most important thing is this southern barrier, making sure that the silt socks and the hay bale reinforced silt fence is always maintained and towed into slope, because that's like kind of our critical barrier here. But we'll have our diversion berms and in place. So, there's more just a settling area. And worst case scenario, you could basically have the overflow, into the kind of the basin, and this eventually does find its way to kind of spill out. But you'd want all the fines to kind of settle.
So is it
settle
a
out
temporary
before.
structure? Is that what you're saying? It's a temporary structure?
Yeah. This is
Okay.
just a temporary sediment trap back here.
Okay.
And this location can kind of
Sorry,
be
I missed
adjusted.
that.
No, it's okay. This location can kind of be adjusted. Obviously if they're doing the improvements of the pavement and back here, they're not going to be able to utilize a trap there. So as the contractor kind of advances in the project, this location may change. But the notes kind of cover the fact that all disturbed areas have to be routed to a temporary trap before any sort of stormwater goes anywhere. That way we can have all of the fines, the sediment settle out, so we're not introducing any sort of water into the dirty water, suspended with fines into the wetland. So that would have to settle out first before that goes anywhere.
Am I correct in thinking that I heard that 70% of the water used in the car wash is recycled?
All of it.
Frank, that's for you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Not the storm water.
No, the wash water.
Yeah.
And the other 30% goes out to the,
The sewers.
yeah. So none of that water is going towards the wetlands.
Nope.
How do you get the salt out?
The salt, the water is treated with ozone.
Oh,
So an ozone system injects ozone into it, and then we have cyclonic filters that spin the water, pull out the particles. Yeah, so it's, what's being reclaimed is the beginning of the wash. Like your undercarriages, like the underbody spray, like the wheel sprays, stuff like that. It's really your final rinses at the very end where we introduce fresh water to mix with the waxes solution.
Can you just come up to the microphone quickly and just tell your name, just so that's on the record?
My name's Frank Carpino. I'm one of the owners. So 60 to 70% of the water will be recycled, not the storm water, just the car wash water, and then the remaining goes into the sewer system.
Thank you.
What
Right.
you're talking about, though, will not take out salt. Salt
No,
is
salt
dissolved.
sells out, but you're mixing water back in, fresh water into that reclaimed water, so you're always diluting that down.
Yeah.
That's why you really only want to use it, or you're not gonna get a clean water. You only want to use it at the beginning of the wash,
Mhm.
like the heavy cleaning part. As long as you're using fresh water for your rinses, you'll get a clean, shining car. But if you have no sewers, you can do it without sewers, but it's difficult.
Mm.
It's really hard to put out a clean car.
Megan, do you want to go through your wetlands report quickly?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Megan Raymond. I'm a professional wetland scientist and registered soil scientist with SLR. And my involvement of the property was strictly delineation. I delineated the wetlands on the property back in March. And as is described and depicted on the site plans, there is a wetland corridor, and we saw on the site walk, there's a wetland corridor at the rear, at the southern extent of this site. The length of the site is about 180 feet or so along that southern property boundary. And there's a wetland corridor that extends off-site to the west and to the east, and it drains to the Birch Plain Creek watershed. It's a really interesting little wetland. It's a wetland that is behind the rear of all of these properties that front on Route 1. It has, though it's compressed by development on both sides, with the railroad embankment to the south and then the built environment of Route 1 to the north. It is a system that demonstrates basic wetland functions. There's a small intermittent stream about 4 feet wide that runs through the wetland system. The wetland system itself, though there are some non-native species, it does have some structural heterogeneity, which means it has complexity at the canopy, shrub, and herb strata. And the important thing with corridors like this, obviously this function exists today when this heavily utilized intensive use on Route 1. And it's a system that is important for water quality within the watershed, important for conveyance, for even localized flood attenuation. There's no FEMA flood mapping here on this site. We're not near a perennial stream or anything of that sort, but this stream, because it has a flow capacity, it does attenuate localized floods. So what in sites like this, where we're looking at redevelopment, the most important aspect is protecting water quality and improving it where we can. So with right now, as it exists, I think we saw in the field, there's no formal stormwater management on the property. It's largely impervious. There's leak offs that drain to this area. So the installation of some stormwater management is certainly a positive. So that is the summary of my analysis, and certainly the S&E measures are equally as important in the short term, from a short-term perspective, managing wetland impacts. And so you need to make sure that the commission is satisfied with that S&E plan, that the phasing has been demonstrated in terms of the demolition, and then during the construction phase for the property, just to minimize short-term impacts with sedimentation into the wetland corridor. I'm happy to answer more questions. We did add, I think there were some conversations at the site walk about the site, the landscaping plan. When we had, I think, originally proposed, it was pretty uniform. It was a row of arborvitaes to the rear. And we did, in consultation or in receipt of your comments at the site walk, we did add some complexity to that planting plan with some more native shrubs, some summer sweet, some northern bayberry was added, eastern red cedar was added to that area. And this is just going to be additive. We're not looking to remove vegetation along the rear of the property. As Scott spoke in his testimony, that that wooded corridor, that small buffer is remaining, and we'll be just adding in, maybe removing some vines, some of that poison ivy, and then adding in these native plants. I think concurrently, though it is off-site, the property owners, owner of, potential owner, I guess, a hopeful owner, it would like to, or has agreed, as I understand it, to remove the debris, the kind of trash that's in the back of the wetland. And I also think that's an important component with long-term management of this site and then the circulation of this property. I think there needs to be, or it would be helpful if there were routine maintenance of the rear of the site, just to ensure that no trash from these cars that are coming through the property are winding up in the wetland. That is something that is easily avoidable, easily addressed with site management. And I think that would be a positive measure as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, so that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions. I know Frank is in person if you have any other operational questions, but we feel that we've put together a plan that's sensitive of the wetlands. We don't have any direct impacts. We're certainly making improvements with our green space, our landscaping plan, our stormwater treatment, which definitely benefits from what's currently happening on site. And we're happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Other questions? I just have one other question, and I think it was answered previously, but where is your snow removal place? I mean, say we get 10 inches of snow, where's that snow going?
Sure. Frank, do you want to explain the typical snow removal process for one of your sites?
Yeah, I mean, generally, like, this is a pretty tight location, so we don't have a lot of places to push snow. We don't want to bury a rain garden with snow. So I don't know if we should mark an area, but we usually have to take snow off the site. But we haven't had to do that in a while. Just haven't gotten
Well, obviously.
We haven't had any snow.
But that always is our plan, is to just pay to have snow.
Removed from the
We'll
site.
usually fill like vacuum spaces and then have somebody come in with a bobcat and dump truck.
Yeah.
And offload it into that,
Yeah.
off the site. But honestly, I haven't had to deal with that
Hmm.
for 40 years. It's awful.
Hmm.
Because snow is our business.
Yeah.
In the rare case, we have snow.
Right.
Hmm.
All right, other questions? Nope, all right.
You got a copy? Did everyone get a copy of the? I know Barbara did not, so I'll make sure I get a copy. And Eunice, you got a copy?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, we can share.
Well, Dave, do you want to add a stipulation about snow removal?
I think they covered it. I think that's,
Okay.
yeah.
And do we want to add a stipulation about a long-term maintenance of the wetland area, you know, for trash and all that kind of stuff?
I
Is
could
that
kind of
the
comment
plan?
on that. Sorry to interrupt, but Megan was kind of diving into two more of your comments that kind of reminded me that all of the plantings on site are now native. It's 100% native, and we do have a note as well in our general notes about trash removal. So that is something that we added in there that basically prepping the project that all trash should be removed from the wetland within the project limits of the project property. And we have a note about continuing to remove trash, especially from that southern area, the southern boundary with the wetland as well.
And I know that's pointing out mainly for construction, but I mean, if you want to put that in there, I'm fine with that, but honestly, we're in the business of clean. So
Yeah.
nobody does, everyone's gonna assume that that's my property back there, and if it's filthy, it's gonna reflect on us.
Mhm.
Our Glastonbury location has a fairly large stream by it, and we're always making sure nothing goes in. Cause it's gonna reflect more. So either way,
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, again, I was just following up on Megan Raymond's
Mm.
comment. But if you guys are
Good.
comfortable with it on the
Yeah.
plan, and what, if it's on the plan, then who sees that plan in 5 years?
who sees that plan,
In other words, how does it translate into real life?
like
If
getting
it's-
done, yeah, I mean, that's be part of the daily walk.
Yes.
Every day when we open the site, and then 2 or 3 times, we have guys that go through, empty the trash, pick up the little pieces of trash in the parking lot. And that would be one of the things, just to walk down the edge, just make sure there's nothing.
And that's, you know, they still have to go in front of planning and zoning.
Correct.
So we would, if something wasn't being handled, that was part of the approved plan as part of the notes that's recorded in the town. We would follow up directly with the owner and say, this is something that was in there. You need to make sure you follow up with that. So.
I make a motion to approve Inland Wetlands Agency 24-0005, the Car Wash Center 771 Long Hill Road. For grading, paving, and stormwater treatment and discharge within the upland review area associated with the redevelopment of 771 Long Hill Road. This permit is subject to the 4 standard conditions and the following modifications. The design engineer shall certify that the stormwater management system is installed per the plan, and the landscape architect shall certify that the rain gardens plantings are installed per the plan prior to the issuance of a certificate of site plan compliance.
I second it.
We have a second?
I just did.
Oh, yeah, all right,
You have to speak up these days.
I guess, yeah, that's true. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right,
Great,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you
care.
all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice virtual program.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Here, I'll take those. A little recycling here.
recycling. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I will make sure those are good.
Hmm.
Second. Or reused.
All right, I don't have anything at all.
I do. I have a couple updates for you.
You do?
So,
Okay, good.
yes. All right, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Frank, have a nice night. Last month, or last meeting, I should say, Deb had discussed with you all, the house at 240 Noank Road. If you remember, these are the photos again there.
Oh, yeah.
So the update is, it's not complete, but the owner did provide some additional information that I would like you to see. I have a couple videos. These are the existing, copies of stuff from last time. So the owner has, had a soil survey done. He is still waiting to get the elevations, which are really important to differentiate between the tidal wetlands and inland wetlands. But one of the things that he did want to see, want to show you, and if I did it correctly, should come up here. All right, we got 2. So just so you can see a little bit better, he wanted to show you a little bit better of what they actually did. Again, we're still waiting for the soil scientist report to get the copy of that, as well as the elevations, but just to show you what he did.
Is this today, yesterday?
This is, it's actually like the storm on Sunday.
Okay.
Because he did it right after a storm, just to show you. So this,
But work has stopped there.
we-
Not doing
work
it.
is, nothing has happened.
Okay.
You know, since
Yeah.
absolutely nothing has happened since Deb and I visited that site. But this is that extension of pipe from the
Uh-huh.
pre-existing DOT culvert there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, let's see how.
For many years. No change in flood area. More flood. stone. The name's perfect.
All right, so you can kind of see the one thing about, you can kind of see it a little bit better in terms of, he did put the hay bales up there to protect it from coming off the driveway, but he wanted to show you that one. This is also the
So
second,
his point there is that there's no silt coming up. Is that
he's saying that.
just, okay?
Yep,
Just looking
that's
for-
what he's, and,
Okay.
and yep, that's what he's saying. So he's like, please share these.
Following day after the storm. It's not that usual.
How long is that extension that we added?
I think he said it was an 8 foot or 8 foot
foot.
pipe. Yeah, so, so again, the biggest thing is really trying to, figure out which wetlands are there. Are they
Yeah.
tidal? Are they, because tidal, obviously then we're also potentially going deep for that. So, but he wanted to show you that. And basically what I said is that we're still waiting for the elevations. We still want to see the soil scientist report and whatnot. And I'm assuming, or hoping that he'll have it for the next meeting.
And did he state his goal? I mean, what was he trying to do? Do you know?
His goal was to, basically, because there was some erosion happening there, he wanted to extend that pipe. So where it currently was coming out from the DOT off of the wall, it was eroding down there. And he felt that just by extending it, he would eliminate some of that erosion there.
He was going to extend what?
Extend that 3 foot culvert,
Big wall, that big pipe?
that big pipe. Yep. So again, we don't have a plan.
Okay.
We don't have the report. We don't have the elevations. So the hope is that by the next meeting, we'll have that so you can make a decision in terms of next steps for him.
Yeah.
Whether it's a removal, whether he comes in for a permit or whatnot, that'll be your decision once all the information comes in.
And there's just one other question. So sorry, Barbara.
Go ahead.
So he wanted to just extend the pipe, but it looked to me like he had done some grading.
Yep.
Along the side.
And put stones.
Very
and
far
all
Yes.
from
sorts
the
of
pipe.
stuff.
And then what I was seeing is that actually based on the fact that he disturbed that, there was some runoff with possible sedimentation
Yes.
in that.
Yep. So
Okay.
he wanted to share
I
these,
just
so I,
wanted to make sure, because
No.
I haven't seen it, so I just
Yep.
want to make sure I understand what I'm
Yeah.
looking at.
It's kind of amazing. that he can do it on his own.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
prevent he disturbed all-
yes,
Well,
yes.
wouldn't if
well,
we knew?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So, and it may be something that
He wanted to
when,
extend
when
pipe.
the, when you get more information, you
Yeah.
may want to do a site walk there
Yeah.
and see exactly what happened.
Right.
This definitely shows more than those photos
This
do.
was a really-
But
and he wanted
there's
to
a lot of
build it up.
information that's missing that we want to make sure
Yeah.
that we provide to you, so you have the best background to make the best decision.
In the
Okay.
meantime.
You could definitely see the sediment sorting along the water course there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one update. The second update, sorry, the second update I have for you is, let me go back to this main page here, not that it matters. Is I got a report, I got a call a week ago or a little less than a week ago, about 80 Star Street. If you remember 80 Star Street, we visited the big wetland complex to the east. That big retaining wall driveway that went up there.
Yeah.
So we got a call from, I'm assuming a neighbor, about some work I'll show you on here.
That's called Star Street, the one where we went up, the
Yes.
pool in the front of the house.
So,
Oh. I thought
you all
that was
can
called
see
something
that.
else.
So again, here's that elevated driveway that they put in there and, the garage that's actually in there right now and the house that will be built. I marked out the wetlands to show him. This is the existing stone wall right here. There's a little clearing. He wanted to rebuild the wall after I talked to him, he said, well, I was just trying to rebuild the wall, but he actually did some clearing within this area here. So, I said, well, this is all within, where's the upland review? I mean, clearly. It's
The
all,
whole
it's all,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
the whole, so there's the
Yeah.
entire area here.
Yeah.
So I said I would bring this in front of the agency and, in terms of what would you would like for next steps for him, if you actually wanted to come in. And submit the work he's doing there. He just said he wanted to rebuild the stone wall, but it does look like that, when I went down and visited, he did clear some vines and stuff along the stone wall, but he also did some back here as well. He said there were small trees but anyways, if
You ought to know better. Cause we've been in there umpteen times.
I know, I was gonna say. I'm not.
And that was not a part, that was not part of this approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting, I'm surprised he's not focusing on building his house rather than. Yeah, it's pretty rough in there and I can sort of understand. I mean, maybe if he just cleared back to the stone wall, but not clearing past the stone wall. So that's a weak argument.
yeah.
I think probably he ought to come in and explain himself.
Yeah.
All right, I can reach out to him and say, coming for the next meeting to
Yeah.
discuss what has occurred.
Well, and again, he should really, was he the applicant or was this a spec and then someone bought it after? they
No,
got
he's the applicant,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
so he really knew.
Yeah.
How much detail we gave this site.
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember.
I'm happy to reach out to him.
Thanks.
Invite him back in
Mm.
next time, so.
I'm sure he'll look
Right.
forward to that.
And those are the things I have.
Uh-huh.
Funny, I
Well, that's
just went by
good.
there the other day. It starts,
So yeah, you can obviously
yeah. See it.
see it
right there,
before,
yeah,
he
absolutely.
comes in and stuff
Yeah.
and see what happened there. So he said, oh, it was just some vines and, a couple of small trees just so he could get to the wall. Again, he can explain that all to
I
you.
mean, I wouldn't necessarily have a lot of problem with clipping bittersweet
That's
along
what I'm
the,
saying. That's
Yeah.
what I
but when
was-
you start advancing past it,
Yeah.
Past the wall, yeah.
that's another
Yep,
story.
yep.
That's right.
So.
I'll again contact him tomorrow.
All right.
When's the meeting in August?
Give me a second.
One in July. and one
Is
in August.
July is the 10th. When's the August one?
Let's see, give me a second here. Yes, July 10th, and then the August date is August 14th.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I'll be here.
That's
Okay. And how was the day-long meeting today?
Excellent.
Good.
It really was. So, yeah, there was, for those of you who don't know, we had, a community resilience building workshop put on by, the Nature Conservancy and Sustainable Connecticut. So we've been meeting with them several times over the last few months. And it was a great group. We had about 30 people, divided into 3 groups, and it was all looking at, it's the way that Megan's thinking about and we're thinking about internally is basically this is the kickoff to the climate action plan. So there'll be a lot more information that starts coming out about that. But this was a great exercise to kind of go through and look at the different hazards. So we looked at 3 different hazards, basically everything associated with coastal flooding, sea level rise, king tide, storms, precipitation flooding, so the freshwater flooding, and then also heat. So there was discussion around all of that, and then at the very end, each group presented their top 3 or 4 priorities. And what basically came out of there is that so much is happening around town with the climate and everything else, and that the town could really benefit from a better communications plan. In terms of letting residents, tourists, and everyone kind of know about, stuff that's going on and the flooding that's happening and the impacts that has. The other things had to do with looking at the urban tree canopy, in terms of we have, as I'm sure you're very well aware, we've had a lot of tree diseases recently that are doing a number on our population of trees in lots of different areas. And
One of those trees fell on my car,
oh, yes, that's not good.
demolished it.
Really? Yeesh. So anyway, so looking at that and how we can do better in terms of preserving that, not only from a biodiversity standpoint, but also from a stormwater retention, from a reduction of the heat island effect. There was a lot of talk about, at least in our group, about like looking at places like in the city, like Electric Boat, and just the lack of trees by the amount of parking there and the lack of trees. And so we talked about that. We talked about, what else did we talk about? We talked about some zoning changes, I think in response potentially to looking at housing. We talked about, trying to think what else we talked about. A lot of it, like the big stuff was all around communication and stuff and kind of, growing that movement around resiliency, especially from the adaptation side of things. So what'll come out of this is that the Nature Conservancy collected all that information. They bring it back. They're going to develop a report. We'll look at it internally as part of our draft report, and then that will be released for everyone to see. So when that comes, we'll obviously forward that out to you so you can read it. And really it's kind of that kickoff point for the climate action plan. A lot of stuff that was talked about in there. We did talk about kind of looking at like places like River Road and flooding down there, and what, you know, what are the possibilities there, you know, and what's the long-term, you know, solutions potentially, or, you know, mitigation
So
options.
There's River Road and there's downtown Mystic.
And there's
and
Willow Point,
yeah.
there's, you know, there's a lot, there's places. Yeah, absolutely. There's, and then when you start getting close to this, yeah.
So I've lived there for 29 years now, and the times that I couldn't cross the road, I can count on one hand in 29 years this year.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I'm not talking this, I'm talking you're not
Yeah.
driving through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh.
And even if you're,
It's very real.
it totally is. And especially it's in, so the coastal one's big, but even the freshwater flooding,
Absolutely.
you know, is getting really
Yeah.
bad. Like the flooding over by Paquonic Bridge and in the Midway Oval this year, a couple times where, you know, basically a whole section across from Paquonic Plains Park was flooded. People were
Yeah.
driving, you know, so
Yeah.
this is becoming more and more in our face, and we need to, you know, have some options for adaptation and also for mitigation on the table. So it was a great discussion, and there'll definitely be a lot more coming. So
That's why it's, I mean, not to be, but, you know, at the last meeting, it was used to be the 99 restaurant.
Yep.
And there was an increase in impervious surface, and so to me, even that small decrease, actually, that's a pretty significant decrease in impervious surface. I mean, I think those sort of little bits.
Yes.
Oh, they add up.
They
make a
do,
huge difference.
definitely.
You know, there's no question.
absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
So I think anytime we can just decrease some of this.
And
Which
we're,
leads me to, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So I have 2 of those trees at my home on Cedar Road, ash trees,
yeah,
and that, it just occurred to me, they're probably within 100-foot wetlands buffer, but I need to remove them.
Yeah.
I don't need a permit. I mean, they're dead,
yeah,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're so dead.
yeah.
That's what
I
I
get-
got on my car.
This is,
Yeah.
it just
4
occurred
of
to me,
them.
but then
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, but wait a minute, but I'm just gonna remove them from the driveway. I'm not
Yeah.
Cutting them, I'm not.
Not doing
disturbing
everything else. Yeah, I think you all would ask, well, how close to the?
I know,
So I
yeah.
think,
I mean, it's really not,
Yeah.
that whole front area is, you know.
Yeah.
Relatively wet, but that's not the reason they died. They died
Yeah.
from. The ash
from the
rain,
disease, yeah,
obviously.
yep.
That's bad.
Yeah.
And then the beach are next.
And the beach, and the beach within the next couple of years, we were talking a
Oh,
lot
you
about
did?
that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting,
I know, that is so sad.
Yep.
I
So,
took out the 2 that I had on my property.
Yeah. That
Because
meets
of
my
that.
Because of
comfort.
that, yeah.
Just- That's why the big
Yeah.
branches have been coming
Yeah, I
down.
don't know, it's just,
Oy.
yeah, and I think, you know, and one of the things that we're starting to work on is looking at a recommended planting list for the zoning regs.
Okay.
And not only is that looking at, obviously, we're pushing heavily, just like you all are for natives. But even some of the natives are, you know, so we really have to look at which ones are being attacked by diseases, and also the fact that as the climate gets warmer, you know, you're starting to get a change in terms of the species. And so there's a, you know, like these are some of the things that, you know, even when applicants come forward and they propose certain things, we would like to have a much better list than the 4 or 5
The
trees that,
usuals.
that are on there.
Yeah.
Just based upon the changes that we're witnessing.
and the one other thing that, you know, sort of seemed to raise its head, and I'm all for affordable housing, but I'm not for affordable housing at the risk of wetlands.
Mhm.
And so there was some talk a while ago that, you know, maybe we'll relax the wetlands regulations so that we can
No.
maximize. and
No.
I'm just-
Yeah, and
That's not gonna
Holy
happen.
moly.
that was something, if I
You
remember.
and I, and we'll all stay on this. tree for 100. Going in. And
I-
this could be on record. I'm okay with this being on record.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of that was coming down from the state level.
Oh.
So I do think that it didn't go, from what I understand, it didn't really go anywhere this year. But
good.
that being said, we pay attention to a lot of that, and if the time comes that it's,
There's,
really serious, then that is something that,
There's already so much resistance to affordable housing anyway, that wetlands is,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's crazy, because
it is.
when they
crazy.
built that large area of housing, north of,
95.
no,
By the Sealy School?
yeah, 184.
Yeah. Oh.
We were there.
Oh, I know.
They were
what you're
talking about trailers on foundations,
Oh, geez.
pre-built stuff, you know, low price.
Mhm,
Now, it's not that,
mhm.
not that at all. And so, you know, that happens where somebody is aimed at that, but the economics of
Yeah.
being in
Yeah.
Mystic,
And there's a difference between low income housing and affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Affordable housing is middle class housing.
Yes.
Again, I'm just making a point.
Yep,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, I just
Standpoint
think that.
I really,
And
you know, I mean, I am for affordable housing, but I'm not
And,
interested.
and I guess, I totally get that. And one thing I suggest is I know some of you had gone to the community conversations that we
I
had.
did, yeah.
All of those are recorded. So
Yeah.
there's some really interesting
good
ones. If you
thing.
didn't see some, there was some on housing, and I do think that there are, you know, definitions are really
Yeah,
important.
they are,
And there's-
exactly,
and
and the
so-
language and.
Yep.
all
So
of
I think
that,
that
yeah.
that's, you know, what we're trying to do internally is come up with that language so it's more understandable, because
this-
everyone says affordable housing. I don't want that.
I know.
Well, we need that, you know, and
Beautiful.
so-
yeah, it doesn't
And-
have to be slum housing. I mean, I built houses for 15 years for Habitat. And they were all affordable housing,
Mhm.
and the people who came in there were
Well,
really
they're-
very nice.
They're
people.
nurses and teachers.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, there's more stuff. Check them out online.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a lot more.
But this is the communication issue.
exactly.
This is a hard one.
It is, yep. And this is the part of,
Is there some unit that's looking into that and you might need a consultant to help with that? I mean.
for,
Well, for community involvement and
Yes.
community education and community, you know, communication and
Yep.
all of that, yeah.
that's something that, again, was a really big piece of the
Yeah.
conversation today. And I
Yeah.
think that,
Cause I know how it is even with my neighbors,
Yeah.
much less
Yep.
the community as a whole.
well, and you know, and so yes, so it's coming. So stay
Yeah.
tuned for that. And obviously the
Yeah.
plan of conservation and development too is also coming. So a lot of this stuff is gonna come out there. That's gonna
Right.
become part of that. So. All right.
How many trailer parks are there in Groton?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. Bryce is actually someone
There's
who does.
more than you would expect.
Uh,
When I had to do the census, I found out all these little
Yeah.
nooks of trailer
Yeah.
parks.
Yeah,
It was
quite a
insane.
few.
Yeah, it was like
The
a,
one across from the Old Town Hall is for sale. That
oh,
trailer
right,
park.
Oh,
the
it's
whole
like-
park.
like
Yes,
in the back.
10 acres or something back in
Yeah.
there.
Well,
Yeah.
because that's an interesting zone,
Yeah.
right? They rezoned that whole area there, they got in family farm.
And I would also, in terms of that, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, Bryce did do a presentation for planning and zoning. So check out one of the last planning and zoning meetings, and there's some
Hmm.
information that'll answer some of
Yeah.
the questions you have about I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, so I want to give you the best information, so check that out. And I can also find it and send it around to you too, if that's something you're
Yeah.
interested in. So,
Yeah.
Right, motion to adjourn before we get ourselves into. too
I know,
much.
exactly. That's what he's gonna say.
Second.
Great.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. Opposed? All right.
All right.